pre-rendered cutscene. So in my previous Resident Evil video, that one covering the 2002 remake of the first game, I brought up the topic of the series Canon, that its sequels and their remakes are following. The original versions of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis were made to happen consistently at the same time. But since Capcom seems to have decided that the remakes are the new canon now, at least to the point of not porting the originals, I decided to look into and try to make sense of what, according to the 2019 and 2020 remakes, is now the new streamlined record of the Raccoon City incident. Also, to try to make sense of how Leon and Claire could be going around their game on the A and B scenarios. This way I can cover both games as a double feature to say what I think about them, instead of overworking myself with 2 videos on the same thing leading up to the events of RE3 Requiem. I have been playing with this idea for a while, and with the new mainline game coming out in 2026 has to be the ultimate reason to do it. Let's go through this in the chronological order, starting with
Resident Evil 3.
September 28th, 1998. It has been about a week since I turned 6 years old, and on the other side of the globe in Raccoon City, a botched arrest/detainment of Dr. William Birkin by Umbrella causes research to leak into the sewers and cause a zombie outbreak. That last bit actually happened on the 22nd. And the slow burn growth of the infection is mostly covered in the local news when it gets noticed, but probably not reported to the rest of the country to avoid mass panic. Around this time, we are reintroduced to Jill Valentine, a member of the Raccoon City Police Department STARS Alpha team, who is having dramatic PTSD nightmares from the Spencer Mansion incident, where she was either forced to sit in a containment cell while her partner Chris Redfield did everything, or she was the one running around the mansion while Chris sat in the cell waiting to be rescued. It is still not clear which scenario from RE1 is canon. Anyway, after waking up from those nightmares, Jill is called by Brad Vickers, and another member of STARS, warning her about, well, that thing that Jill manages to escape in a rather scripted sequence where all the player needs to do is press forward. After losing it by escaping her apartment building, Jill runs into Brad in the streets, who quickly exposits that thing to be after them as STARS members who know too much about the Spencer Mansion incident. Brad and Jill eventually come across the zombies roaming the streets and having caused a lot of noticeable pandemonium, but are then separated when trying to take shelter in a bar, where trying to keep the door closed causes Brad to be bitten, and then he has to stay behind while telling Jill to go on without him. By the way, in the original game, Brad was killed by that thing because he was a STARS member and to establish that thing to be a threat to be avoided. But in this remake, that thing is just show and presentation rather than actual threat that you just need to run away from. The fact that thing doesn't even get to kill any STARS members should make that obvious, but moving on, Jill manages to flee the zombies to the top of a parking lot, where that thing catches up with her again to be hit by a car, and is then shot with a rocket launcher by Carlos Oliveira, who comes to Jill's rescue as one of the few improvements that this remake has. Carlos leads Jill to the rest of his Umbrella team gathering civilians in the subway, and begrudgingly they reach an alliance to help people out of the city. Their leader Mikhail assigns Jill to go restore power to the subway system from the substation on the other side of this alley fire. After putting it out, Jill witnesses some of Umbrella agents killing each other, or just Nikolai as his establishing character introduction.
He was infected.
He might have been infected.
Oh, STARS, this soft. No wonder so many of you dead.
And what are you,
How many of
UBCS,
us
killing your
are
own
dead?
people?
He would have turned. There's your sense of self-preservation.
But she doesn't have time to debate coulda-woulda situations about infected people as she needs to do her job. The power substation is infested by Chimera/Protonovistadors that can infect Jill with poison, but that only slows her down and the real challenge only shows up after she has turned the power back on. Jeff Snipe, who is voicing Carlos in this game, eventually got to voice Chris in Village. Or the next best thing to a real challenge, which Jill is able to stun before running away to the subway control room, to set up a safe passage for the train carrying the survivors. That still doesn't stop that thing from pursuing Jill as the last STARS member in town, and returning back to a subway station, Jill decides to try leading it away from the others.
Come on, you creepy-ass stalker! You want stars?
Jill eventually manages to flee from that thing to the sewers, infested by a few hunter gammas, but that thing still manages to catch up with her when she climbs out of there, and is now armed with a flamethrower when chasing Jill into a burning construction site. There it challenges Jill into a boss fight on the roof that ends when it is eventually taken over by the very flames it was itself shooting out, and Jill survives the drop of the building into relative safety. On her way back to the subway station, Jill runs into Robert Kendo, who lets her take whatever she needs while passing through his gun store. But then that thing decides to show up again, this time armed with a rocket launcher, forcing Jill to pick up the pace dodging the zombies and this toy store roof decorative. Wow, just like that editorial said. On her way, Jill was fortunate enough to call ahead to Carlos about what is still coming after her, so that he was able to prepare for her arrival like this.
You okay? Go! Go!
Come on, forget about him!
Come on, let's get out of here.
After that's done, Jill and Carlos go down to the subway, where Mikhail sends Carlos to go pick up a doctor from RPD with another guy named Tyrell, while Jill can join him and Nikolai moving the survivors to the train. It's September 29th by the time the train is yet again caught up by that thing, as it kills all the survivors, while Nikolai escapes the train while leaving Mikhail to barely buy Jill time to make distance between herself and that thing as the train crashes.
Get off my train, shitbird!
If I hadn't directed or written this scene, I would have had Mikhail say that in Russian. While that is happening, Carlos and Tyrell have arrived at the RPD to see what remains of Brad Vickers to bite and infect Marvin Brano.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oi. Poor Marvin. Blow up the wall between the men's and women's showers, and then learn that the doctor they came here to pick up to be in another castle.
Don't worry, we're gonna get you out of there. Just tell me where you are.
I'm trapped in a goddamn hospital, surrounded by every kind of abomination. Umbrella's gone crazy. They're killing all the researchers. I am the only one who knows how to make the vaccine to stop the zombies.
Yeah, what's up? Derailed. Was anyone hurt?
Jill?
By this point, Jill has survived that thing crashing the train so that she can report about it to Carlos, along with the fact that they can trust Nikolai.
Nikolai left us to die.
Wait, what?
It's back!
And now that thing has turned into a Bloodborne boss, in appearance only, because I have played and finished Bloodborne, which was more fun than Jill clearly pretending to have when finishing that thing off. Anyway, when Jill is about to enter the clock tower, that thing manages to receive its second wind to shoot a projectile at Jill and infect her as Nikolai watches.
Interest. You've done me a big favor. Miss.
12 or so hours later, even when it should be daylight hours, Carlos manages to find unconscious Jill where she was left off, and realizing that she has been very weakly infected by that thing, he decides to take her to that other castle where that doctor was moved, aka to the closest Spencer Memorial Hospital. Okay, if the train crash happened sometime between 2 and 3 am, and Carlos found Jill 12 or so hours after that to arrive at the hospital around 9:20 p.m, that makes it about 18 in-story hours that our main character was unplayable during the game. Carlos is playable next while Jill is out like a light, and he must find her the right hangover the vaccine to the infection she got from that thing. Wow, that sounds so weird when said out of context. Anyway, Carlos runs around the mostly zombie and hunter beta infested hospital, looking for a way to get through an audio lock door.
I'm here to rescue you. Open the door.
No voice match found.
Voice match? What kind of sci-fi bullshit is this? Open sesame.
No voice match found.
This is Nathaniel Bard. Open the door, please.
No voice match found.
Come on, let me in, you piece of shit.
No voice match found.
Guess it has to be the voice of someone with clearance.
No voice match found.
All I wanted to know was what the documents were doing in your office in the first place.
Who do you think you're talking to? I'm goddamn Nathaniel Bard. I'm the best good. Good.
Where he ends up finding the doctor already dead, but having left a single dosage of the vaccine to the T-virus that he made for Umbrella. That then makes Carlos realize that he is working for the bad guys.
God, Jill knew all along. And she trusted me anyway.
And then Carlos finds that remaining vaccine, rushes with it to Jill past the hunter betas and zombies, treats her with it, and now we might as well move on to Resident Evil 2, as it is happening at the same time as Resident Evil 3.
Resident Evil 2.
Okay, probably while Carlos was trying to get Jill to that hospital, this trucker hits a zombie on the road while eating a hamburger, and while Carlos was running around the hospital, Leon as Kennedy arrives at a gas station on his way to Raccoon City. Because he is a cop in the 90s, he feels obligated to pay for the gas to the attendant at the station, but then it turns out that everyone inside is a zombie, and Leon could have taken what we in Finland call as juoksubensat.
Don't shoot!
Get down!
Yeah, that was my last bullet.
You alright?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Leon Kennedy. You are?
Claire. Claire Redfield.
So despite what we saw Jill survive through earlier, there is no one stopping Leon and Claire from entering Raccoon City, and be separated from each other thanks to the trucker from earlier. And the way how they get separated is based on the opening montage scene in Resident Evil 4 Remake, meaning that Leon takes the shorter path to reach the Raccoon City police station before Claire, because we are shown that Leon still has the knife he gets from Marvin when meeting him. That means Leon A. Claire B is the canon path of Resident Evil 2 because Capcom said so. By the time Claire would so reach the RPD through the longer path she took and be noticed by Marvin, Leon should have been able to pick up Elliot's notebook, put on a SWAT uniform, get the knife he will still have in RE4 Remake, and collect most of the medallions to open the statue passage in the main hall. That so means that while Claire is looking for the fuse to open the shutter doors, Leon should have been able to collect the last remaining medallion, and have been told by Marvin at gunpoint to take the passage and go before he turns into a zombie. And seeing how Claire comes across Marvin having already turned into a zombie, it's a good thing Leon went when he did. Right. And now while Claire has to somehow figure out how to open the statue passage to follow where Leon went, while also going to find a letter from Chris to Jill saying that he was never in Raccoon City to be looked for, Leon comes across William Birkin having turned into the first stage of the G-virus infected monster. I assume Sherry is watching and eventually drops the ladder down for Leon to climb out to the parking lot, but won't reach out to him for a very disturbing reason we are about to see when Claire comes in next. Since Leon already fought William Birkin, Claire won't need to do that, and she also has easier time to have Sherry trust her as a civilian, because Leon as a police officer would have probably made Sherry think that he was working for this monster.
I've been looking everywhere for you, Sherry. Brave little girl to leave your house in the middle of this mess. On the ground, hands behind your head.
You heard her. I swear to God, my brother is stars and I...
Sherry, get over here. What's your fucking name?
Claire!
Sherry, you come with me now, or say goodbye to Claire.
Kind of weird that was how Claire and Sherry learned each other's names. But to rewind back a little, while Claire and Sherry were not introducing themselves to each other, Leon was saved from an infected Cerberus dog by an FBI pretending Ada Wong, who then led him to the cell block to find Ben, trying to tell Leon that Chief Irons is a corrupted piece of who deserves worse than he gets in this remake, right before getting his head squashed by Mr.X. And that happened while Claire and Sherry got ambushed by Chief Irons in the parking lot. So now Leon needs to get into Ben's cell to get the parking lot pass to leave the building, while Ada is mostly just existing, I guess. By the time Leon gets back to the parking lot, Claire has used Chief Irons' own personal elevator to go up to his office to return to the RPD, while Leon has to take a detour through the morgue. They do still share a goal in getting power panel parts from the clock tower, and then there is Mr.X, also now marching around the police station. Claire already ran into him when she entered the STARS office, while Leon comes across Mr.X when he has put out this fire blocking his pathway following a helicopter crash that happened off-screen earlier. Since the bell falls from its place around 3 AM and the power panel parts are for grabs after that, and considering what both Leon and Claire need them for, let's go with Leon getting to his parts first and going down to the holding cells to power off the cell doors, pick up the parking lot pass and the recording Ben had on him, and then get saved from Mr.X by Ada once more before they leave the station.
Ada, this is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice.
Why'd you bother?
I didn't realize you were keeping score.
Meanwhile, Claire needed the power panel parts to open a gated part of Chief Irons' personal taxidermy museum, which must have some illegal and protected species in it. Pleased with how it turned out, but I'm getting tired of working on these puny things. Siberian tiger, male approximately 4 years old, place of capture. Mitä fit? I'm not reading that out loud. If Leon got to the power panel parts first, Claire probably had to alternatively find tools or other equipment to...
How to cut wire with bolt cutters. The way you do it, you stick it in all the way in like that, and as you pinch it, you twist.
To break into this gated section, where she is held on the phone by Irons when she enters it. Leon and Ada must be leaving the parking lot while that phone call is happening, and they close the parking gate so that it's closed by the time Claire comes down to it with orders to bring Sherry's drop pendant to the nearby orphanage.
Hello?
Good to see you again, Claire. We've got unfinished business.
What are you talking about?
Don't waste my fucking time! Bring me the pendant, or Sherry dies.
Pendant? What do you need it for?
Do you want the girl to die?
Fine. Where are you?
The orphanage.
The orphanage? Where is that?
In the neighborhood. You'll find it.
Is Sherry all right?
For now.
I swear, you bastard, if you hurt her... Are you serious?
The Mr.X that Ada hit with the police van should have freed itself by now, and be coming after Claire by that point as well. Leon and Ada must have gone through Robert Kendo's gun shop by the time Claire runs past it, and are most likely in the sewers when she reaches the orphanage. Sherry should have thrown the acid on Chief Irons' face by this point, and the G. Birkin should have let him off easily by the time Claire gets there.
Your fault!
What?
Took too long!
What happened? Oh god. Get off me! Oh my god!
I still think Chief Irons got off too easily when acknowledging his corruption, murder and desecration of the mayor's daughter, and all the abuse he forced onto the children in this orphanage. There's something weird going around here on February 13th. And it's not cause of Anne's stories. Don't get me wrong, I've been wrong in worse places, and this place is funded by some big drug company. But why can't we call people or go outside? Why are there so many doctors around? What's with these shots every day? It's almost like Oliver came back in the middle of the night, all messed up, screaming, "Help me" and stuff. I didn't even recognize him first. His face was all peeling and melted off. He's with the teachers and doctors now. It's just a skin thing, they say. He'll get better soon and then we can go on adventures together again. Claire manages to find Sherry by the time Mr. X from the police station finds them, but once again the G Birkin comes to Sherry's rescue at the price of whatever remains of Birkin's humanity. At this point, Claire and Sherry fall with the elevator they are in down to the sewers, where Sherry's workaholic mother Annette takes her from Claire while she is unconscious for a bit. During this time, Leon and Ada should have gotten past the giant alligator. Flammable gas! Bang, bang, bang!
Chew on that, you overgrown son of a bitch.
And should have also run into Annette, who has temporarily put Leon out of commission for Ada's playable section. The noticeable elephant in the room here is the Mr. X that shows up to chase Ada here, which points our attention to other Resident Evil games that Capcom has not remade yet and should still count as canon. Resident Evil Survivor on PlayStation 1 was set on Sheena Island, which Resident Evil 0 lists out in its opening as one of the events spawned from that prequel game. Sheena Island is the location of one of Umbrella's research facilities, like the orphanage in Raccoon City, where they made Mr. X-type tyrants, and according to Spear Hunter's review on RE Survivor...
Fun fact, Umbrella dropped 6 T-103s and Nemesis into Raccoon City. They just went full psycho mode back then.
Meaning that the Mr. X that Ada comes across in the sewers is not the same Mr. X that stalked Leon and Claire in the RPD before getting skewered by G Birkin. Moving on, Ada ends up chasing Annette to end up falling into a trash compactor.
Where's Leon?
Into which Annette seems to have also locked Sherry into while Claire was out cold. Okay, and how should I make sense of the sewer level with both Leon and Claire down there? Both are expected to find the chess piece plugs around the sewer to power up on another door to the trash compactor, do a mini game to turn on the power to open the trash compactor, fight the G Birkin again.
Let's do this!
Go down, go down, go down! Fall, damn you, fall!
I'm so sorry, Sherry. This is taking forever.
Let's hope that's the last.
And then get Ada and Sherry out of the trash compactor before needing to take them to the nest. Ada because she tells Leon it's needed as evidence for her FBI investigation, and Sherry because she got infected by her father's G-virus, which, by the way, trial will be entering its final phase very soon before G, the new creature that will surpass humans, is born. Allow me to predict a few things about its biology and biological functions. G will be a creature of pure instinct driven only by a need to survive and reproduce. Most remarkable feature will be its intense desire to reproduce. It will instinctively search out humans with DNA that closest matches its own and implant an embryo on them. But the chances of success are very low, and if its DNA is not close enough for a match, an underdeveloped G creature will be reproduced instead. I suppose the only ones who might be close enough to match would be any biological children of the subject, though. This is disturbing. Even when it's honest, this is disturbing. So, according to Leon's playthrough, having this bloodied hospital bed when he arrives to the nest, we could probably assume that Claire got there first with Sherry to rest here while she runs around the place. Yeah, let's go with that. So, Claire wakes up for her sewer level experience while Leon and Ada are dealing with a giant alligator, and manages to do everything she needs to do to save Sherry from the trash compactor to leave the nest via the cable car before Ada reaches the trash compactor to be trapped in there. After that, Leon just needs to run past the parts of the sewer that Claire has cleaned up already. Annette likely didn't have the time to spread the chest plugs all around the sewer, and she didn't look as dirty as if she had when Claire meets her in person in Nest. Claire should so be done with collecting the wristbands by the time Leon gets Ada freed, and by the time they reach Nest, Claire has already gotten the cure, or a small dose of it, from Birkin's lab and gone to use it on Sherry with Annette not dying by their side. Considering how Leon and Ada's cable car ride went...
I'm not just gonna leave you here. What if you're attacked? What if you need help?
They're both covered in sewer waste.
I'll be fine. Don't worry about me.
Leon should have been properly motivated enough to run past them in the medbay room and beeline through the cleared out path to Birkin's lab and easily pick up more of the G-virus.
Huh. That was easy.
Yeah, way too easy.
Attention, unauthorized removal of a level 4.
That would be Leon. As shown on Claire's story, taking the cure, or the virus in general, without the proper authorization, aka Sherry's locket, causes the nest to detonate the self-destruct sequence and the G-Birkin to... No, Claire fought Birkin while she ran into his lab, and Annette didn't get fatally wounded just enough that she could pretend to be dying and go to investigate the alarm after having told Claire and Sherry to run. So when Leon runs into Annette without needing to fight Birkin, she tells him the truth about Ada not being an FBI agent, and when this last scene between Leon and Ada happens...
She claims you're not FBI.
Oh, Leon. Why couldn't you just hand over the sample?
Much as I wanted to trust you, I didn't.
I really hoped it wouldn't end up like this.
So that's all this was. I was just some pawn to you?
Look, I'm just doing my job.
And I'm doing mine, so drop that damn gun! I'm taking you in.
Hand over the sample, Leon. I don't want to hurt you.
And you shoot me, but I don't think you can.
Did Annette just shoot Ada through Leon? Ada ends up reactionarily, aka accidentally, shooting back at Annette, which is what ends up killing her in the already weakened state she is in.
Take care of yourself, Leon.
No!
And from there, Leon goes down the elevator after Claire and Sherry before him. He calls them while they are trying to get the underground train running, and Leon ends up fighting another remaining Mr.X. Probably the one that chased Ada in her quick playthrough section, while Claire has to fight another evolved form of the G-Birkin. Ada drops the rocket launcher for Leon to kill that Mr.X for her. Claire and Sherry get the train running. Leon gets on board to join them, and then Claire has to defeat that final form of Birkin before the game is over. That is the new canon of Resident Evil 2 according to Capcom. And that was the best I was able to make most sense out of it as the Leon A. Claire B path. It should be September 30th now when that game ends with Leon, Claire and Sherry walking on the road. And by now, Carlos and the still sleeping Jill should have been joined by Tyrell at the Spencer Memorial Hospital to let them know about the upcoming bombing of Raccoon City. Okay, and back to that game now.
Attention all citizens. The contagion spreading throughout the city has been designated uncontainable. On October 1st, Raccoon City will be completely destroyed in a missile strike. All residents capable of rational thought are urged to evacuate immediately.
We get the date from the TV announcing the bombing just before the zombies decide to attack the hospital, and Carlos has his last playable section fighting them and some hunter betas, until Tyrell manages to hack the shutters to block the windows, and Carlos blows up the pillar to block the main doors. After that, they see that the vaccine has worked its magic on Jill, so Carlos decides to go look for more while telling Tyrell to report the good news to the government to not bomb them. Here, this is a dream sequence now, because it's in the first person. Imagine if they had took this and turned it into the DLC campaign set in the clock tower. That's something I salute Spear Hunter for coming up with, and yeah, hope they could have done the same. Could have done the same. Hire more fans. Send more fanboys and fangirls to work for you. Keep those that are too frantic on a leash, but take their ideas, play with them, and if you can make them work, then use them to make them work. Calling this game a finished product was the biggest joke of 2020. And by the time Jill wakes up from her sleeping beauty nightmares, it's already October 1st with Carlos not having come back from getting that stockpiles of cure that Tyrell tells Jill should be underground below the hospital. Jill feeling like she owes her life to Carlos for bringing her to the hospital and curing her, then follows Carlos's tracks down under the hospital. Instead of Carlos, Jill runs into Nikolai, who makes her run around zombies, Cerberus dogs and hunter gammas, all so that Tyrell could catch up with her and then be killed off by that thing when it shows up again. Oh. That is how Brad was supposed to die in the original game. Luckily, Jill manages to get past that because she is the main character, and makes her way to the lab to start working on creating the vaccine by needing to run around the Nest 2, looking for the ingredients for the lack of better words to do that. Jill also needs to dodge zombies, palehead zombies, and more hunter betas, while also learning that that thing is called Nemesis, and it was created by Umbrella's European division, which probably also worked as the in-game announcement for the then upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake. After then managing to create that cure vaccine, that thing then attacks Jill and chases her into a boss arena, where Nikolai steals the vaccine from her and makes Jill fight that thing.
Jill, is that you?
Carlos?
You're okay. Let me spot for you.
Good idea.
Carlos then shows up from out of nowhere and helps Jill fight back against that thing, and then drown it in acid. Jill then goes to get the vaccine back from Nikolai, who tells her,
You and Mom. I like her.
and then that thing shows up one last time, separating Jill from Nikolai, who tells Jill to fight it in this form it has now as Carlos reaches them, and is told by Jill to go after Nikolai.
Just so you know, this is the last fucking time. Come on!
You want stars? I'll give you stars! Is what Jill should have said here. And then the game ends by having Jill go up the elevator to where Nikolai has overpowered Carlos, shoots Nikolai in the last playable section of the game, and then she and Carlos fly away on the helicopter, leaving Nikolai behind as Raccoon City is bombed. Now that actually I think about it, people who Nikolai was working for, could those be the connections? Could Nikolai have been working for the connections?
Alright.
Or Wesker or yeah, so... And that is the canon of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 in a chronological order now, as Capcom has deemed by saying that the original games do not matter to them anymore when they are remade. Or something like that. Maybe both the originals and the remake somehow are still somehow canon, but the newer fans who only played the remakes are only going to know how the remakes told the story of Raccoon City's zombie outbreak. The game is not remade yet, like RE0, Outbreak 1 and 2, as well as the Survivor are still canon, especially when Resident Evil Requiem shows characters like Alyssa Ashcroft in it to establish her to be a thing, after she was already mentioned in RE7. But anyway, the purpose of this video was to try make sense of the chronological order of the events of these two remakes, with commentary on how the streamlined Jill story is, and how well I could describe Leon A. Claire B route to happen without both characters running into each other. I did end up needing to cut out a lot of Leon's activities in the sewers and the nest that Claire did instead, while at least Leon was able to do more at the police station, so that balanced it out a little. I'm actually surprised that I was able to make sense of Annette's situation at the nest, but even that only makes sense with the Leon A. Claire B scenario. In all seriousness, Capcom should have, or could have, done more to give them more to do while the other one was doing something else than running after them. Okay, at the time of the writing and when I have this video coming out, Resident Evil Requiem has not come out yet, but I have pre-ordered it to be ready to start streaming it on my next designated streaming day after its release date. While waiting for it to come out, I still have other videos to work on, including that scheduled remake review series, the 5th Watchmen video, the first recap episode of Pokemon Kalevala, and I should probably start that review script I said I would do a video on after getting about 500 subscribers. Now, before I ask you to do the usual YouTube stuff at the end of the video, let's do a test on how many people actually watch to the end by seeing if you can answer this question. When the Silent Hill 2 remake came out, why did people compare James Sunderland in it to Leon S. Kennedy in the RE2 remake, when William Birkin was right there as the obvious lookalike to James? Comment your answers down while also remembering to like the video, share it for more people to see, and subscribe as well as ding the bell to be alerted for when the videos are up and the streams are happening. May your heart be guiding key.